Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the August 20th, 2018 meeting?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. There are no appearances. There is no unfinished business. Item 6A under new business, consideration of resolution 18-9-2291, authorizing the issuance and sale of $3 million of taxable general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2018B. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I'll second. Mark?
Yeah, Jeff will. So basically what this is, last meeting, we had the authorization for Jeff to start negotiating for these bonds. And what these bonds are, they're a combination of two that are being refinanced into one $3 million refinancing. We purchased, there was a developer's agreement with Tracel at $1.5 million, and we purchased Chase Bank at $1.5 million to get to $3 million. They both were kind of, one with Chase Bank was coming due in October, and Tracel was coming due in 2 years, but we weren't paying any principal on that, so we thought it'd be best to refinance and start paying down principal long-term notes, because we are receiving enough cash flow in TIF 8 to support the long-term schedule.
Perfect. I couldn't have summed that any better, Mayor. That's exactly what's happening here. No new money. TID 8 is doing well. We've got a cash flow and a cash stream now. So what we've done is we've taken that $3 million out, as Mark said, in basically level payments through 2029. You'll see from the handout, got a 2-page handout showing the yields. Actually, start with the par amount of $3 million, a small premium of $3 million or $3,400. All-in costs for that 14-year issue. 11-year issue, 18 and 29, 11 years, is a 3.859%. And you can see the yield to maturities, 260s out to a 3.55% in 2029. Now, those are taxable yields. So they may look a little higher to you in terms of rates than our normal tax exempt, and of course they are. And but due to the nature of the guarantees and the original purpose, the IRS dictates that these be done as a taxable issue. If you want to take a peek at the second page, hopefully we can all see that Bloomberg printout. There's two of them I wanted to show you. There's a Citigroup brought an issue, a pretty large issue, 145, almost 146 million. Big block sizes, maturing in August 1st. And if you take a look at, these were done on the 29th, so last week, in last week's market. You'll see their 19 maturity is at 263, and ours is at 260. And if you go down to 2029, they're at a 345, and we're at a 355. Obviously, no perfect world. Ours mature on 10/1, but more importantly, they have a 10-year call on that issue, and we have a 7-year call. So we're going to be able to get out ours quicker. And in conversation with Mark, in the way in which we believe your increment will develop, you're probably going to want to call some of these. So my point being is to pay 3 or 4 basis points more to have that call 3 years closer to us is certainly going to be well worth it to you. Just take a look at that final maturity, and if we can pull that 355 out of there, say 3 years ahead of time, 4 years ahead of time, obviously you can really do the math. We're saving a bunch of money. So hard to find absolute perfect comparables, even if they were Wisconsin credits, if they're not done on the same day and they don't have the same maturities. But I think you get a pretty good idea that's where the market is. The second comparable on page 2 is basically a Piper issue, and it's Racine County, Wisconsin. And you can see that they've only had 3 maturities, 20, 21, and 22. They're at 275, a 285, and a 295 in those particular maturities. We're a 280, a 290, and a 3, so 5 basis points off of that. But again, you take a look at those are non-callable. Any questions?
Nope. That was my only question, was about when they were callable, so.
Yeah, we moved it up, Doug. Mark and I and Mark had said, Jeff, where can we put this thing where it's not going to cost us anything? Because I really believe we're going to have cash flows to get at this. And we originally had it a little longer out, and we moved it up 2 more years. I talked with underwriting. I said, well, let's see at the time we underwrite what the cost is and if it's effective. And 3 basis points is certainly worth paying to move that up a couple of years.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, do you need a roll call on this, Joan?
Yes.
Will you please call the roll?
Alderwood,
Aye.
Mayor O'Connor,
Aye. Motion passes. Item 18-9-2292, authorizing the issuance of $3,300,000 in general obligation promissory notes and the issuance and sale of $3,300,000 taxable note anticipation notes, Series 2018 C, in anticipation thereof. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Now, in this particular issue is for TID 9. We bumped up the par amount slightly. We had anticipated that we would do the $3 million. We're going to have a payout to the bank on those 2 issues of $3 million, right around $3,045,000. And then Mark and I have decided, or through consultation, we've looked at a little over 2 years of capitalized interest. So when we looked at the marketing, we weren't going to be able to sell them at as high a premium as I thought we were because, first of all, we don't have a lot of par there and it's somewhat short relative to generating premiums. The longer bonds with a little bit of coupon generates more dollars over that time. So we bumped the par amount to $3,325,000. That'll give us the full $3,045,000 to pay off the notes on October 1st when they come due, along principal and interest. And this is TID 9. We've got really basically no increment yet. We've got a small increment that's going to come right now, and then we're going to get larger chunks of it. So again, if you look at this particular issue, it's not a general obligation pledge. It is a note anticipation note, only pledging future revenues. So this is a AA as opposed to our normal AA plus. Very typical of, hey, you're not issuing a full faith and credit pledge, fine, we're down. And it's the same way the other notes were issued on our last issuance. So you have a yield there in 2022 of a 3.15%. You've got basically the same amount of expenses over the same par amount, so you can see that it bumps the TIC, or the true interest rate, up to 431, but this is only an issue that's going out to 2022. So, and this one's callable in 20, I believe.
So you know what this is for. This is for refinance, again, 2 notes that are due with Monona State Bank as of October 1st. One is for the purchase of EDS, the other is purchase for inland boat. So these were coming due as of the 1st. We had to refinance this. And also, as Jeff said, the strategy was to save some capital interest costs, so not to go out as far, because we will be refinance this fairly soon, because we will be starting to generate increment fairly soon in the TIF number 9. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to comment on this. I don't know if it's something you can comment about who the bond holders are, but if
Yeah, I
that's-
think, and you're reading my mind again. I was remiss in terms of the previous explanation. If you look at the 10/1/2025 maturity, on that particular maturity at a 3.3%, Monona State Bank bought the whole maturity. So I think that's, I'd have to look at my OS, but it might be like $300,000 worth. So very nice of them to participate at those levels. A lot of times, particularly with the recent change in tax law, it's tough for local banks to buy municipal debt, especially large chunks of it, but they were good to step up and participate in this particular issue, and I think they certainly should be noted for it.
Great.
That was the first one, or this one?
Yeah, that was on the first one, Doug. They bought the 2025 maturity at the 3.30%.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, just briefly. So, when were these 2 due, or when would they have matured?
These 2 are also October 1st of this year, so
Correct.
with
Yeah.
less than a month.
So they were always intended to be short-term.
Yes, sir, correct. They were done originally to At the time they were done, one of them was done fairly quickly in order to, I believe, buy that property, if you recall, and the bank stepped up and did that. We had, really needed their assistance, and they were really good to do it. So and we followed up with some other improvements to that district, which we matched the maturity of October 1st, knowing full well that we were going to continue to improve TID 9 and that we'd need additional capital to do so, and that's why we're restructuring it. The significance also, Doug, is that in terms of the maturity date, it matches the 4.1 million we just did, the majority of that going to TID number 9.
Okay.
So we're putting this together so that sometime over the next 3 years, when we get an increment established, we'll be able to look at one issue and again do what we've done with TID 8, and that is to match the debt service to the revenue stream. Because we don't want any of our TIDs to fall on the general property tax levy. That's not why we created them. There's no need to do that. So this is very typical of how tax incremental district projects get financed.
I just had a general question about interest rates. They have creeped up somewhat, right?
Somewhat, but I was just saying to Mark, when I look back and we targeted our debt service for the first issue, these serials out to 29, it was on June 18th. I ran schedules for Mark to take a look at based on where our last increment was. It's like 489,000 we were pulling in. And we have a couple other issues of which TID 8 is paying a portion of some existing debt service. And I ran those, but I had to guess at where we might be today. I was 0.2, it's pure luck. Well, maybe a little bit of good guessing. I was 0.2% off of the market where we are today. But surprisingly, when you look at the taxable market, and when you take into account the fact that this economy is moving along better than it has in quite a few years, rates have stayed relatively unchanged since that time. So I'm very pleased with where we've come since May. As an example, the 10-year Treasury was slightly over 3% at one time. Today it was a 2.89. So gives you an idea that it's gone up a little bit and it's come back down. So there's some good stability, and I think that's an indication that even though we've got a robust economy, there's not that much fear of inflation right now.
Right. Is part of it due to the maybe uncertainty in the markets about the impact of this administration's trade policies?
You would think so, and you hear that, and the pundits are talking about trade
Right.
wars, et cetera, but when you see the market, it kind of fluctuates a little bit, and it comes back up, and, I don't see the panic that you and I might have seen when we were, no offense, younger, and talking about tariffs and all of that stuff going on,
Right.
so it's kind of refreshing that, from my standpoint, when my job is to get my clients money, I want to get it at the best price, lowest rate we can get. I'm pretty impressed with where we've come through for this summer, actually. I really am.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Just one last thing. Jeff will be back here probably within a month, because we are going to be borrowing again one more time for the remaining
Scheduled for
infrastructure
October
project
1st
for TIF
meeting?
9. So
Mhm.
just so the heads up on that.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Or I'm sorry, roll call.
Mayor O'Connor,
Aye.
Alderwood,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Belongia. Resolution 18-9-2294, approving the purchase of equipment for Monona Community Media. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval.
I'll second. Will, would you like to?
Yeah, I can say a few things. The equipment on that list is some of what we would normally get this year or in the coming years. And it's also a number of things that we may have never gotten if they wouldn't have given us such a great price. And I think that's just something to keep in mind, is it's not necessarily on our list of the 5-year goals, because we never would have bought those things at list price. So it's in that way, it really is an advantage for us. And with the school district purchasing most of the gear, really 2/3 of it, it's not much of a burden on our fund balance, so that works out in our favor as well, as we'll be using, as we share all the gear anyway, even though it's in the studio at the high school.
So do you want to explain a little bit how this came about?
Sure. Well, basically, it came about by the Madison Media Institute being mismanaged by a corporation, and so the corporation that owns Madison Media Institute also owns a handful of other colleges. They own the Minneapolis Media Institute, Rockford Career College, a couple other nursing schools right here, right off of the campus of MMI. And they basically bought Madison Media Institute a few years ago and started using the profits of the Media Institute to help their other schools, kind of pushing it out to their other schools. And the corporation is American Higher Education Development. So they own schools everywhere. And so what happened was they started pushing out money to other schools, and then the government changed the gainful employment rulings to where a certain percentage of the students who graduate from a for-profit school have to be gainfully employed in that career path, which then put some tight restrictions on them. And so there's ways that they found, and I'm sure all schools find ways to kind of change the percentages based on when you count a full year. So in this year, this percentage of people graduated. Getting a little off base, but this is how it all kind of came down. And when that didn't work, they changed their accreditation from a 2-year associate's degree to a certificate, and changed their accrediting agency and everything. And then from there, it just went downhill. And then they did so midway through some of the students' associate's degrees. And then they made the news in the paper for doing that, and students were, I think they got a lawsuit against them, and then it just kind of went downhill from there, which is a shame, because it's all the teachers are professionals. They all either worked in LA or around the area in film or audio or recording studios. So I heard about it, and I actually had Lindsay reach out, because Lindsay was interested in talking to the owners to possibly have some type of afterlife for that building, because it's built for video studios, audio studios, those types of things. And I think he's still working with them on trying to get something going for the Society of Broadcast Engineers and things like that. So I had Lindsay reach out, because I still knew many of the teachers there, and he reached out to the operations director, and they said, yeah, come on over, and we'll just write a list of things you want and make sure we hold on to it. And then I proposed all the prices and said, here's what I propose, and they didn't blink an eye. So so it works out for all of us. They have no need to store the gear. It doesn't help them, so they are very amenable to the prices. And I believe Diane Mickelbank's getting some office furniture for pretty cheap for the quality of furniture. So it's I guess it works out for everybody, not necessarily for those teachers, but for us and other people who are going to get the equipment.
So it's a good opportunity for us to get some things that we could use, but we might not have otherwise purchased, or certainly not purchased right now.
We're going to be able to get some vocal mics for the radio station. So in the future, if we ever want to record musicians and have it be in studio, WVMO, and maybe we take some high school students or whatever it might be, we'll have the equipment for that, as opposed to just kind of pushing one of our mics in front of them. The studio at the high school will be far more equipped to do things, therefore leaning off our gear so much that we bought to do the remotes that we go to, the football games and all those things. So it'll give us not only more equipment to use and utilize, but also some backup equipment. So if something happens, we're not going to be scrambling and have to spend, $1,000 to fix something right away. We can utilize another piece of gear until we figure out the best solution. So it should work out well. The school district was happy with it, and they were certainly on board. Especially since this agreement would be to purchase all the equipment and then have the school district pay us back over the course of a two-year term. As part of our agreement with them, they are to help us with equipment upkeep at $5,000 each year. So they would then pay $5,000 this year for that equipment and $5,000 the next year for the equipment, or the remaining, which is $4,875.
And that's part of our new agreement with them.
Yeah.
So, any questions, or?
If I can just add on, just so, because we got
Mark?
a budget amendment related to this. So there's two things here. There's two sheets that are included. One was for the school purchase, so that was for $9,875. So like Will said, $5,000 will be paid to us this year, and then the remaining amount will be paid to us next year based on the current agreement. So there's no budget amendment for that, because that's just basically in and out costs. We don't budget as a budget amendment for that. The other one is for the $270. That would be a budget amendment for that amount, which would come out of the media fund balance. So that's where that'd come from.
And I'm correct that we have about 45,000 still in there, roughly?
Roughly around there.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're voting on the purchase approval.
Right. I did have
Okay.
a question or two. So we're getting it for less than, probably around 35% or something of
Yeah.
new costs? It's-
I mean, those retail costs I put in there were for brand-new gear.
Right.
It's not brand-new gear, but
Yeah.
it's certainly well-kept gear and professional gear. Yeah, we're paying literally less than a third of the new purchase price, which means a lot of that gear I know is about 5 years old, 4 years old. So, and some of it even less than that. So we're probably getting, half the price of what we would for, or maybe used gear somewhere that we don't have any knowledge of who used it or how it was used. Where here, I feel a little better knowing the company and the teachers and the people that handled the gear.
I have to say, I was surprised to see that we could get a blimp for $150, but
Right.
apparently it comes with a dead wombat, which
Yes.
makes it,
And we've all seen the dead wombat. We just don't know what it is until we actually see it on paper. It's the big microphones that you see with the big
Oh, yeah.
fur around it. Yep.
had to ask.
I'm gonna pull up a picture so when the council comes, I can show everybody.
Good idea. Okay, anything else?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item, 18-9-2295, amending the 2018 operating budget for the purchase of equipment for Monona Community Media. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I will second, and I think,
That's what we're just talking about. So this is the city's portion that they'll pay for is the $4,270, and that would come out of the fund balance for media.
any questions?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is the bills.
Yeah.
So Mark, got two different groups of him.
So there's a lot of stuff that happened here and within the last, we didn't have the last meeting, we tabled the invoices, so there's probably more than usual. Just kind of hitting some of the bigger items in here. Page 5 for mine is MP Squared Structural Engineer. This was part of the capital plan to do the water slide. We're looking at re-evaluated. Page 6 is Strand. There's all the projects they are working for us right now. Page 7, Vanderwall is working on the sign code. Kind of bottom down there, WS Durling and Company. The fire department drying system, there's a special kind of dryer we have to use for their clothing. The last one fell apart. This was actually part of the capital plan, so that's an approved capital expense. Page 8, Weidenbach is a little dollar expense, so I just kind of want to hit on it. Though when he built the water wagon, just some of the minor supplies they used to buy it. Page 10, Alex and Burleson. Here is the, so their attorneys' invoices for the month. Page 12, Dell Marketing Senior Center Computer Lab. This was actually another approved part of the capital budget, which is now up and running. Page 13, Environmental System Analysis. The library and City Hall HVAC upgrades. They did some work there with our consultants. That would be part of our capital budgets. We'll be bringing soon to the council the results of that. Couple 15 Jenks General Contractors. The boat launches, even though they're closed right now due to the water level. This is the invoice. Page 17, just Monona Bank, which is our credit card system, our city credit cards. Kind of running a couple minutes left. I don't know if anybody has any questions, concerns.
I had one. What was the water slide evaluation for?
So they're going to redo the water slide. They're upgrading it, fixing, kind of repairing it. So they were doing, just reviewing it before they actually fixed the repairs on the water slide.
Okay. So not, okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the bills?
There's no motion.
Oh, there's,
Oh, move approval.
sorry.
And move acceptance.
I'll second.
Just one thing before, I'm sorry if we move off this. Alderman Kitzler asked about the capital projects and when they're done with that. I knew he was going to be gone this weekend, but I already have it done, so we'll have it for the next meeting to kind of go
Okay.
over a lot of the closed projects and where they're at.
Okay.
And get an update on that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will say aye also. Motion passes. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.